This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have a very special treat for you. What we're going to do today is we're going to go over all these different machines on the table as to basically their learning curve or the learning curve of juicers. Now, you might be asking yourself, what is a learning curve, John? Well, the learning curve is, I don't know, let's describe it as this, remember back when you were a kid, if you learned how to basically ride a bicycle. I mean, I remember when I learned how to ride a bicycle, I got up on the bicycle, and that's a two-wheel bicycle, right? You're driving and you fall off. Because you're a kid, you don't know how to ride a bicycle yet. You gotta get on the bicycle, learn how to balance the bicycle. Then you gotta learn the brakes, whether you got the hand brakes or if you got the feet brakes, then you gotta learn how to pedal it. And then you gotta learn how to turn. So when you ride a bicycle, there's many different aspects and things you have to learn to successfully ride a bicycle. And it's the same way with juicers. Some juicers are easier to ride, or to use, like a bicycle. For example, a tricycle is a bicycle with three wheels, so you really don't even have to balance. You have to think about balance. All you have to do is get on and basically pedal and steer. And there's not many tricks to it. So there are some juicers that are easier to use, much like a tricycle. And they're on this side of the table. We'll cover these, one by one. The next juicers, maybe there's a juicer that's like a bicycle, that's two wheels, that you got to kind of balance on, but, for the most part, it's pretty easy to use. And that'd be like this machine here, the Omega Vert 330 HD or the Omega Vert 350 HD. And then there's even juicers that are like a unicycle. And that's one of the things I want to learn. I want to learn how to ride a unicycle. That'd be really cool. And if you like challenges and it's a lot steeper learning curve, then that's where the Green Star Elite GSC 5000 comes into play. And the reason for the learning curve is that some juicers are literally easier to use than others. A lot of juicers, you just basically take the power cord, plug it into the wall, turn it on, and put the produce through, and what you get out is the juice. And that's fairly easy, and that's like this style machine here. Over here we have the Omega BMJ Mega Mouth Juicer, formerly called the Big Mouth Juicer. Now it's called the Mega Mouth Juicer. Has a 3-inch wide feed chute. Now this is a centrifugal ejection style juicer, and how this runs, there's a fast spinning blade in there, much looks like a shredding, that you would shred your carrots up on. Basically micro shreds the carrots or whatever you're putting into the machine and shreds it out. The pulp or the shreds come into the back. The juice is then flung out of the machine into the front. So once again, this style machine, plug it in, hit the on button, put the produce in there, shove it in there, and it juices no problem, much like a tricycle. Same thing here with the Champion Juicer. This Champion Juicer is what's called a masticating juicer. And a masticating juicer works by chewing like you would chew your food. Hop, hop, hop. It chews the juice. So there's a fast spinning blade, runs at about 1725 RPM, 1725 RPM. Basically breaks up the fibers, and as it breaks it up, juice is released. So the juice on the Champion comes out of the bottom of the machine, and the pulp then comes out of the front of the machine. Once again, very easy. There's an on and off switch, and you put the produce in. Next over here we have the Omega 8005, which is the same as the 8003, except the color is different. The 8005 is in the chrome, plus the newer models of this same Omega, the Omega 8004 and the Omega 8006 Nutrition Center. So those machines all are basically like this. The two later ones, the 8004 and 8006, are the upgraded versions of this model and have a 5-year longer warranty, plus an 8 times harder auger. So it's highly advised that you get those upgraded models if you can afford them, because the warranty alone for extra 5 years, it's worth the small difference in price you'll pay now for the warranty later on. Nonetheless, this machine, once again, you plug it in and you have an on-off switch. So most of the time you'll turn it on, and it's a little bit more difficult because there is a reverse on this machine. But it's really easy to use reverse. Most of the time you always have the juicer on, and sometimes you may need to reverse it if you get a backup situation, and that's pretty easily to notice. Otherwise, there are no settings on these three machines. Basically, you put the produce in there and it juices it up. No other settings have to worry about. They're pretty much cut and dry. They all juice fairly well without thinking about it too much. Maybe you wake up in the morning at 6 a.m. You're a little bit groggy and you don't have to think about, the order of the produce you got to put in. You don't have to think about setting different adjustments or knobs on the juicer before you juice. You just want to plug it in, turn it on and go. Well, then these machines are the machines that you want to consider and look at. So once again, these are like the tricycle, because you could just hop on any tricycle and go, right? The Omega Vert juicer is more like a standard bicycle, where you have to like do some kind of balancing, but otherwise, once you got the balance down, then you're off and running. So with any juicer, there's going to be what I call a learning curve. And what that means is it's going to take you time to get to know the machine and how the machine works. You know, much like a bicycle, you know, when you get a brand new bicycle, you know, they might have some new features. I mean, bicycles nowadays, they got shocks and all this kind of fancy stuff on it. And some bicycles have like 10 gears or 10 speeds you got to like rotate through. And how do you know you shouldn't start off in the 10 speed or 10 gear versus gear number 1? I mean, one gear is better for going up hills and one gear is better to start off in. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time. So it's much like that for juicers. You know, you want to learn how the juicer works and use it appropriately. And that comes only with time and experiences of using the juicers. So let's move on to this next one. This next one here is the Omega Vert 350 HD, which is the same as the Vert 330 HD, but the Vert 330 HD basically is in white, and the 350 HD comes in this silver and black color. So the Vert 350 HD is more like a bicycle because, you know, it does also have the on button and a reverse button, but it can be a little bit more finicky, you know, when juicing. And for this reason, that's why I call it a bicycle. On the Omega Vert juicer, it's much more critical about the produce you're juicing. So for example, always when you're juicing, you want to select the firmest, freshest produce as possible. You never want to juice like soft, mealy apples or softer zucchinis that are going bad, or wilted greens or lettuce. It's just not going to work quite as well as fresh produce. And that's intensified, especially if you're using the Omega Vert, because the Omega Vert, if you have soft apples, it's going to make applesauce instead of apple juice. While these machines, you know, will do a little bit better on softer apples. That being said, you shouldn't be juicing softer apples anyways. But the Omega Vert, the ordering of the produce and the size of the produce that you put into the machine, you will have to pay some attention to. For example, if you're juicing things like collard greens or kale or celery that have long stalks with stringy fibers in them, for best use or for best results, you should be cutting those pieces of kale or celery up into smaller 2-inch pieces, because what happens is that'll go in the machine will process it, and out of the pulp outlet right on this side, and long strings of fiber tend to get stuck in this machine. And so that's not necessarily a good thing. It could back up, jam, and cause a situation where you've got to pretty much stop the juice or clean it and then restart again. But that can be minimized, and I have another video actually explaining this. Look up the video on YouTube, 9 ways to minimize pulp. If you do a YouTube search on that, you'll find my videos with basically 9 techniques to minimize pulp and also to get the best you know, juicing out of the Omega Vert juicers. So you know, once again, there is a learning curve. And so, but you know, I still like the Omega Vert. It is actually one of my favorite machines. So this last machine here is called the Greenstar Elite Juicer GSE 5000. You could plug this in. It also has an on and off button, so you could turn it on, but it also has a reverse. So once again, the reverse button on these machines generally is only used when you have a backup situation. You could kind of reverse it to get the machine spin backwards to unclog or unjam whatever you're juicing in some cases. Sometimes you'll actually have to stop the machine and take it apart to clean it out. But this machine here introduces another element that you need to be concerned about when you're juicing. Number one is the ordering of the produce, which can be important because on these machines in particular, the ordering of the produce is really important because these machines require, and especially this machine, requires hard fibrous material or plant cell walls to be effective at juicing. So on the Greenstar machine, you do need some hard fibrous vegetables to juice to basically get it to push the fiber through. For example, juicing pineapples. I've juiced pineapples many times in the Omega Vert, and you know, it'll juice one pineapple straight up fine, make a nice pitcher of juice, and eject the pulp with no problems, provided you feed the pineapples through the machine properly. And I have another video on that if you want to check it out. But on the Greenstar Elite, it does have some challenges putting pineapples through because it depends on that hard fiber to push the fiber through the machine to get it to work properly. So in that situation, you know, you're going to have to loosen the outlet adjusting knob. So this is the other variable in the Greenstar Elite machine, the outlet adjusting knob. And we're going to go ahead and unscrew this now. What this outlet adjusting knob does, it has a spring in it, and that puts tension on this little piece here. So I could like press against it, and press, and it's pretty hard to press it in actually. It's pretty hard spring tension. That keeps the pulp inside the machine to allow the machine to extract the most juice as possible. So this is really good in most cases because you're going to get a higher yield in the Green Star Elite Juicer, but this is not a good thing when you're juicing things that are softer because it'll keep the pulp inside and the pulp will not be able to come out because the pulp is too soft. So in that situation, I recommend that you would actually use the fruit attachment, which is basically the same as this, but it has a different color end tip and has a much softer spring tension used for juicing fruits and other softer produce items. The other thing you can do is in this outlet adjusting knob, you're recommended in most cases to screw it all the way in. And now when you screw it all the way in, that puts the most spring tension on the produce coming out of the machine. But what you can do is you could actually run this machine with the outlet adjusting knob completely off, or halfway unscrewed, or a quarter of the way unscrewed. And you know, that's one of the learning processes or the learning curve that you're gonna have to learn how the machine works. So once you get the machine, you know, you're gonna have to put your mind into kids mode, like pretend you're back in kindergarten and the juicer's a new fun toy you get to play with and experiment with and see how the blocks go into each other and how it all works, and have that kid's mind while you're playing with it to learn how it really works. Try different things. Maybe sometimes it's gonna create more foam, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you find, well, hey, if I juice the spinach first, then it juices better than if I juice my carrots first, you know. And you want to always mix up what you're juicing. You could try some apples, a little piece of apple, then some spinach, then some carrot, or you could try juicing all your carrots, all your apples, and all your spinach. And you know, I try to, you know, show in the videos that I make the different ways to do it, and in many cases, especially with these two machines, the ordering of the produce that you put in the machines is paramount in making, you know, a successful and having a successful juicing episode, because it can be disastrous. And you know, you could get a lot of different results juicing the same exact things depending on how the produce is cut before you put it in the machine, and also the ordering that it is, and also the quality of the produce you're using. So there's many variables. I sometimes get emails that says, John, the vert doesn't work. And you know, I've been using the vert since it came out. I was one of the first people in the United States to own a vert other than people inside the Omega company. And you know, it is one of my favorite juicers, and it does work fine provided you know how to run it correctly. So that's, you know, in the instruction manual they give you the basic understanding and basic instructions on how to use it, but sometimes it even goes beyond the instruction manual, and that's where the videos that I create for you can come in. So anyway, so that's why I would say the Green Star Elite is more like riding a unicycle, and I don't know how many people out there ride a unicycle. If you do, well then maybe you're gonna have no problems with the Green Star Elite, because you've mastered the unicycle. But once again, the Green Star Elite has a few more variables, like the ordering of the produce, which is also on the Omega Vert, but also this outlet adjusting knob, which also keeps back pressure on the machine. So the problem is it will tend to clog up. And you say, oh, John, my Green Star Elite's clogging up. Well, that's probably because there's too much pressure on it because you're not juicing enough hard fibrous vegetables to help push the pulp through. So once again, every juicer, no matter what, has a learning curve. Some, like the ones on this side of the table, are easier, and some are a little bit more difficult. So let's go over these juicers one at a time once again. Over on this side, we have the Omega BMJ 330, now called the Mega Mouth Juicer, formerly called the Big Mouth Juicer. Over here, we have the Champion Juicer. Here we have the Omega 8005 Juicer, which is the same as the 8003, but the 8003 is in white. This is in a chrome color. And also the 8004 and 8006, the same as this machine, but the upgraded model. So once again, these are the simplest juicers to use if you just want to plug it in, turn it on, and start juicing. You don't really got to think too much. The ordering on this one is a little bit more critical than on these, but for the most part, these are easy to use, and that may be a criteria for you. You know, some people like to get a new product, a new computer program, or new VCR stereo, or DVD player, CD player, and read through the whole manual and figure it out and learn how to use the machines to its capacity. And some people just plug it in and put the disc in and hit go. So if you're one of those people that don't like to read instructions, if you get these, you could pretty much plug it in and juice and you'll be doing fine. If you do like to read the instructions, you like to learn how to fully utilize the machine, then these two machines might be for you. This is the Omega Vert 350 HD. Once again, this is the same as the Omega Vert 330 HD. And over on this side, we have the Green Star Elite GSE 5000 juicer, which is the, you know, has the most learning curve, but you can get better results with the Green Star Elite. be sure to check my other videos where I do actually juicing comparisons between some of these different machines so that you can learn what juicer is best going to meet your needs. So hopefully you've enjoyed learning about the learning curve with the juicers, and once again, it is like riding a bicycle. Once you can balance on a bicycle, you're off and running, and once you learn how to use your juicer, you're going to be good to go for life. So once again, this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.